Hey, what's happening, guys? Ronin here. We are still in the middle of the day 1 million of the coronavirus shutdown. And I think it's a good time to really think about it. Think about what's changed and how you can take advantage of the opportunities that are going to come out of this. And I mean this in many ways, both on a like kind of a personal, experiential, you could call it spiritual, whatever, mental state, and also practical things that are going to change, things to be ready for, and maybe possibly even, business opportunities. But what is the difference when a challenge comes in life, right? When something big comes, and let's make no mistake about it, this is a big one. When something big happens in life, what really happens? Basically, this is evolution. This is where you start to separate the winners and the losers. Okay? And what I want to really want to put this in black and white because it's very important for guys to understand that life is somewhat of a competition. Like it or not, it always is. And you're competing against the world, you're competing against people, you're competing against yourself. It's not like all against people, it's against yourself, it's against your possibilities, it's against it's like the sin of omission they talk about in the Bible. It's what you didn't do that you could have done. That's what you're competing against. And when something like this happens, what tends to happen is people turn inward and they think about what they lost or what's not happening. So what used to happen and what is not happening. And what some people do is they realize that things are changing and they look for the understanding of the dynamics, and then, how they can come out of this stronger, essentially. That's what I want this to be about, is how you can come out of this stronger and and really, seriously, people are going to come out of this either stronger or weaker. Okay, that's it, period. And in relation to everything, I'm not saying you're going to come out ahead financially, you know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, if you survive. Well, I mean, there was a meteor that hit the Earth many eons ago, and it killed most of human life, or most of animal life, sorry, and also dinosaurs. But there were some survivors, and those ones were the ones that really they won. They won genetically. They won in such a big way because the other guys were no longer there. So their offspring took over the world, and their DNA won. There's a couple of great books you can read if you want to read something about kind of this topic. A little bit off, but kind of the basic of this topic is Sperm Wars. Sperm Wars is a great book. Another great one is called The Red Queen. These are fantastic books, talking about genes. Like below the level of consciousness, your body is made up of genes, and how those genes are really what evolution is all about. They're not about you as a person. It's about those genes. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's genes, a replication of genes, not replication of humans. But anyway, so let's talk about what you can learn and what's changing. I got a lot of different thoughts on my mind. One of them is on a personal note. I have been walking around and, getting my exercise. I do my solitary walk, and it's very nice, very healthy. I'm feeling great, by the way. Like physically, I'm in great shape. I've been really moving, and it's interesting when I read about people who are not, who are losing it right now, because I've been walking and I almost feel like I've been training, like some kind of serious training. Yesterday I took a 3.5 hour walk in the morning up and down hills. And what I was doing was I was kind of exploring the area that I'm in right now, and like little streets that I hadn't seen before. I was looking for possible real estate opportunities in a downturn. I was looking for things that I'd heard of in my childhood that I didn't remember, or, I wasn't really familiar with. I was kind of like, I was also just exploring changes that had happened. And it was a fantastic, essentially a tour for me of my hometown, what I consider my hometown. But at the same time, I was also looking for business opportunities or potential, in the future where I could live, this type of exercise is good for my mind. Even if I don't do it, it gives me ideas about, obviously I could buy a house and then Airbnb it, or, all kinds of things that you can do. Exercising your mind never is a bad thing. What most people are doing right now is they are just essentially they are under the spell of someone else's thought. Okay. So they're reading the news and someone else is telling them the way it is. Right. And they are reading about that and they're comparing, this guy says it's this way, this guy says it's that way. And they're basically just choosing of the belief systems that are being presented to them. And this is not a productive thing for you. You want to go into your mind and you want to be looking in the world with your senses, with your intelligence, and seeing what is actually going on in this world. It's a great experience right here for you guys. This whole thing is a fantastic experience in keeping your state. I talked about this before in your reality. What is your reality, right? My reality is not something I construct. Okay, I am like a CCTV camera sucking in information with microphones and videos and smell adapters and a sight. And I am looking at the world all the time, and I'm also calculating based on the education I have, the things I know, the things I hear and read and looking at. And I'm always calculating what is changing, what is available, what is going on. And one thing I noticed is the air is clean, and it's very clean. And I've always been, I want to separate two things here. Okay. A lot of men, and this is quite interesting. A lot of guys listening to this are into, and I know because I've met you like at different summits and stuff. A lot of guys are very into being good to the world. Like for example, like the guys that come to the summit, I swear, these guys, if they were camping, they're going to leave the campsite better than it was when they got there. And that was the rule of the Boy Scouts. When you went camping, you would leave it better than when you came. So you wouldn't like leave trash. You wouldn't break off branches of a tree. You would look for branches that were already on the ground, had already fallen off. And obviously they're dry and they're better for burning anyway. But a lot of people don't think about that. They just kind of destroy things around them, right? But they leave the world better than they found it. At the same time, as they're not into the mind virus that's going around. There's a lot of, in the media and in modern society, there's a lot of beliefs that the world is this way. And, in the 70s, there was global cooling. Now there's global warming. There's a lot of belief systems that you're supposed to believe in, or you're not a good person. But here's the thing. The heart of any of these, there's always truth in everything, okay? There's truth, and you want to find that truth. And the truth is that you want to be good to the world. That's the basic bottom line. And a lot of people, today, people think that if you believe, let's say you are a crusader for global warming, then you are a good person. But how you live does not really matter. So, like, for example, somebody like me, I buy a lot of my clothes, almost all of my clothes, I will buy from the Salvation Army or from the Goodwill. It's one of my hobbies. I will just go walking, and if I'm in the States, I'll wander into one of those stores, and I will look at the clothes, and I will try them on. It's just something I'll just kind of check it out, go in there and look, see what's in there. And it's just kind of a hobby of mine. It's a very good hobby, though, because I often find very valuable things in there. And it's also enjoyable for me. And also, it helps me to, I guess, try new things. Because when you go into, let's say, a Goodwill or a Salvation Army, there's obviously thousands of brands in there. Whereas when you walk in the mall, there's only, like, say, 20, 30 brands. So when you go into a used store, there's many more variety, a larger variety of options. So I go in there, and by default, I will end up trying all kinds of things that I would not usually try and would not usually be available. I mean, it's this one of the stories. Obviously, you have these exceptional stories, but one of the stories, I bought a jacket that was $8. It was $16, but it was half price that day. It was $8, and one of my friends said, "Hey, I think that's an expensive jacket." And I looked online; it was a Swiss brand. Turns out it was like a $700 jacket I got for $8. Same thing happened with some shoes I bought once. Very nice shoes, and they were super inexpensive. I think they were also about $8. And very inexpensive, but they were very, very nice shoes. They were also dress shoes. They were also walking shoes, and kind of everything that I like. Easy care, but they didn't look like easy care. They looked like, you know what I mean. They looked like it took work to keep them nice. Those are the kind of things I really like. But anyway, that shopping used is one of the best things you can do for the environment, right? But it's just a hobby for me. I don't mean to do it. I don't try to do it in order to be good. Okay, that's not like what I'm doing. It's like, hey, I'm going to be good now. And that's what a lot of people do. It's like my lifestyle ends up being like the Boy Scouts, where I leave the world better than I found it. And it's not because of some ideological thing. It's because of all of my habits. I think that today people believe, and this is one thing I really thought about during this shutdown. They think that if you believe something, it's more important than if you do it. So, in other words, if you spout off some belief in some whatever it is that's going on in meme or belief system that's going on today, if you believe that, that's more important than if you actually do the underlying things that are actually helping that thing, right? You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely crazy world we live in. So somebody could be terrible, living a lifestyle that is terrible for the environment. But nobody cares about that. All they care about is what they say, right? And not what they do, And that's a very funny world. But anyway, I don't care about that. That's not my world. But I realize that in this time right now, it's a long way of saying, I realize that I really enjoy the air being clean. More than I even thought about it. Because now that all, industry, is turned off, basically, and also cars are not driving like normal, and the air is really clean. And I've seen sunsets that just unbelievable. I've never, ever seen these. I don't think, I personally, I think, I'm in Southern California right now. I don't think anybody living today has seen the sunsets that we're seeing right now. Like nobody living today, because ever since I can remember, I know in the 70s, the air was very bad in LA. And it was worse then than it is now, much worse. Before men invented, and don't make no mistake, it was men who invented pollution control devices for cars, catalytic converters, and also filtering systems for factories that completely changed the air. And also, the air is connected to the water and it's connected to the land, because obviously things in the air, like water, become rain. They fall down and they go into the dirt and they go into the water again. So air is not air. It's air, dirt, and water. It's all of the above. So air pollution becomes pollution for everything. So, but I realized that in this time, I care more than I thought about this stuff, actually. I don't care about what society cares about, that I should care about. But what I do care about is I care about breathing clean air. I'm going to go take a walk now here in the morning. And I really really enjoy getting out there and seeing the sun and looking at the beautiful sunset and looking at the beautiful sunrise and breathing deeply in my lungs. Man, I tell you, I love that. I really, this is one of the really joys of life to me. It's a beautiful thing. And, it's something that I really, this shutdown has really awakened me to my senses. And I think this is one thing that you can do now is awaken your senses as a man. A lot of men are so busy and they basically don't have any time to actually feel anything. And this is a good time to actually take your time to sense the world, feel the world, smell the world. I've noticed things now. I've noticed flowers. I've noticed that, I'll tell you something. One thing was very surprising was the other day somebody took a picture of the beach near here, and there was tons of turtles. And those turtles had not spawned on that beach since before anybody that was living here now was born. It was back in the 20s or 30s when they used to do that. They started spawning again. And I think it's because there's just not many people on the beach. I'm not saying we should stay away from the beach. I'm not saying, I'm not making a big pronouncement, but it was a beautiful thing, actually. I was very touched. It was like a lot of people think that the world has changed irrevocably, like life is now crap. It's just like a couple of weeks, a shutdown, and you got turtles spawning on the beach here. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're just waiting, The world is not destroyed. And I say that the same thing for yourself too, is no matter how many hard times you've been through, no matter what kind of situation you've been in, whether it's a terrible divorce or, terrible child custody battle or anything, a terrible injury or, something that has been devastating, let's say a financial loss. Let's say you lost a lot of money in the stock market or you lost all your money. You lost your business. No matter what you lost, remember, those turtles are waiting to come up on the beach. And those turtles are your real self in this case. They are your real self, your natural manhood, yourself as a man, your real humanness. It's just waiting to crawl up. Just allow it. And this is a good time to relax and let your real self crawl up. And, what a lot of guys do is they basically, guys accept the life they're given. Okay, so if women only want you for money, they want you to work. If nobody cares about you, you just say, well, it's the way it is. I'm just going to put my head down and that's the way it is. But I'll tell you something, it's not the way it is. And you don't have to accept a shit life. And you should not accept a shit life. It is not in your nature. It is not good for you. It is not positive. You will regret it. You will regret it. If you put your head down after this coronavirus thing is over and you just go back to normal, that is a very big mistake. I'm telling you right now. Now is the time. Now is the peace. Everybody says, I don't have time. I don't have, a chance to relax. I don't have a chance to think. You do now. And that's what I'm talking about in this one. You have a chance to really reevaluate things in your life. All the things in your life. And I want you to look around. And not just like big things, but small things too. Here's an example. One of my friends learned. My friend she's very, very wealthy. And she has these apartments. She basically bought all these apartments in the top of this luxury building. And a beautiful place, great security, near all the restaurants, blah, blah, blah. But she learned something during this shutdown was that she feels very claustrophobic, her and her husband and kids, because the windows don't really open in this place. And that's what a lot of brand new places, in these like apartment buildings, condos and things like that, complexes, they don't open, the windows don't open. And I tell you, no matter how beautiful the view is, if you can't breathe the air and you can't open the windows, man, for me, I'm not into that. I want to open the windows. I want to let in the sunshine. I want to hear the birds. For me, opening the windows, and this is why I like camping. This is why I like tents. This is why I like simple things, is because it's essentially, a lot of houses are just basically, essentially prisons from the real world for many people. And what they do is they get caught in these prisons. And the more money you have, the bigger your prison is, the bigger the walls are to the world. But for myself, I'm just speaking for myself here. The world is where it's at. And hiding is not where it's at. The world, people, earth, birds, sunshine, gravity, the water, smells, sounds, creaks and cracks and crevices and adventure and discovery and difficulties and learning and getting beat up and then getting through it. This is what I want for myself. I don't want to hide in a prison. either a physical prison or a mental prison. Neither one. I'm not into that shit. I want to be confronted with myself. Okay? This is the big difference between me and a lot of people. They are running from being confronted with themselves. I want to be confronted. I want to have difficult times. I want to be with people too close where it becomes difficult, where I find something out about myself and about other people. This is what I want for myself all the time. And the reason is because this causes me to learn. This causes me to change. This forces me to take off the fakeness. This forces me to take off the lies I have in my mind about myself and about other people, and to see people. And also it's a strength building exercise, because the more you face reality, the more you face yourself, okay? And the more you grow, the more it's a muscle, right? It's a muscle that gets bigger and stronger and stronger. And just like muscles, the longer you don't use it, it very quickly atrophies and you become scared. So you could be somebody, okay, look at yourself right now. Look at your fucking self, okay? When you were in college, you were probably out there with a lot of people, like having fun, meeting people, doing things, challenging yourself. What the fuck are you doing right now? Have you become, this is what happens. A lot of guys, there's something happens in their life and they wake up that they have become somebody they don't want to become. Okay? And I one of the things, it's like a wake-up call, right? One of my wake-up calls was when I tried to jump. I used to be able to dunk. I couldn't dunk a basketball. I was never a great jumper. That was not my thing. But I could dunk a volleyball. And I remember when I tried to jump, I think I was about 50. I could not jump. I mean, I really could not jump. I was like, I don't know how many inches off the ground, but it was really embarrassing. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, whoa. Like I had been totally blind to the fact that I had let myself, I was in good shape. Okay, I looked good. I was muscles, no problem. I was flexible. A lot of things were good in my life. I'm not saying it was like my health had gone to shit. I mean, but I was not able to jump. And that was a big shock for me. Because let's face it, jumping is a big part of the world. You got to be able to fucking jump, man. Run, jump, play. I love playing. That's why I love kids. Kids love playing. I love playing. Puppies, dogs, cats, fucking they love to play. I love to play. I will play all fucking day. And other people lay in lounge chairs, right? And order people around and angry. I'm not into that. That's not my thing. I want to play like a fool all day. I am playing all day. Whether I'm doing work or whatever, I am still the same. That playfulness is a key, man. And jumping is part of that. If you can't jump, what the fuck, man? Well, you're fucking close to the fucking grave, man. Start digging get a shovel. Get a fucking shovel and start digging your fucking grave, No way, man. Let this be a wake-up call. Let these things be a wake-up call for you, right? And, because I tell you something. There was in my mind, just kind of interesting, when I breathed the air and I looked outside the last couple of days, and I realized how happy I was that the air was clean, like really clean. I had there was a little bit of me that was afraid of admitting it, because part of me saw it as a political thing, like the environment and this and that. And there's certain things, like I'm not a political guy, so I'm not into politics, but there was part of me didn't want to kind of associate with some other ideas that are out there. But then the other part of me was like, smell the fucking dirt, man. It's been raining for 4 days here. The dirt, it smells fucking great. Dude, the dirt, fuck. People make fun of the dirt. Dirt has a bad name. Dirt has a dirty name. But fuck, dirt is awesome, man. I fucking love dirt. I've always loved dirt. Like muddy dirt. Fucking look at dogs, man. You try to keep them out of the mud. They're like fucking jump right in, right? I'm the same way. I love dirt. I love mud. Mud is not dirty. Mud is cool, man. Mud is the Mother Earth, man. It is the fucking, that's where we come from. Life springs from it. It's a beautiful thing. And you can smell it. You can smell the dirt. You can smell it, especially now after all the rain. Damn, it smells good. And you can smell it because the air is clean. And I realized that I was kind of underestimating how much I love the clean air and the clean dirt, and the heightened senses, because I lived in China for 10 years and it was very, very polluted. And it was, the AQI was off the charts. The AQI, if you know anything about AQI, which is a rating of the air, PM 2.5 particles, it went to almost 1,000 one day. I think it went to actually over 1,000 one day. It was so bad that I walked from my house, which was right behind, if you look on a map, it was right behind the Ritz-Carlton in Shanghai, to the, there was a convention center right in front of the Ritz-Carlton, and I was doing an event there. I had an event going on. So I walked from my house around the block to the fucking convention center, and I felt depressed. I mean, I'm not kidding. I really felt terrible. Like I wasn't even like, I went around one corner or two corners. I reached Nanjing Road and I felt like there was no hope in the world. The air was that bad and it affects me that much. And I was shocked. If you've ever been in an AQI above 700, you know what I'm talking about. It becomes unbearable, unbelievable. And I knew that I didn't like that. And that's partly why I left Shanghai. Now, the air has gotten better since I left, so that's good. But I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this, One of my friends had a serious respiratory illness. And because I didn't have that, I thought, well, I can handle it. But you can't handle these things. This is about being human, man. Human being, man. You are a human being, sir. Wake up, Scotty. And, it's awesome, I love being a human being. I love being a living creature, And that's something that I've really gotten out of this coronavirus thing. I really have been thinking about and wanted to share that. What else has changed? Let's just go through a couple things. I think that was the most important, actually. But I learned that, everything's going to go online, online education. We're going to see huge changes in the way that students act. You're going to see real estate markets changing, like, student housing next to schools used to be the best investment, most, consistent, solid investment you could ever make in the world because students were always going to rent the place out. I'll tell you something, with online education, that ain't so sure anymore, if you ask me. I've always wanted a triplex or a fourplex next to a school, like in Isla Vista in UCSB. I always thought that'd be the perfect investment. But right now, I'm seriously questioning that one because with schools going online, you're going to see less students congregating. And I mean forever. It's not just because of the virus. The virus was just the thing that pushed things over the edge. But the reality is, online education is better than in school. It is. Students test better. Now, I'm not saying kids should not get together. Don't get me wrong. People need to get together and there will become a new balance. But right now we're in that kind of awkward state of switching from offline to online. So naturally, what you're seeing now as online is not what's going to be the final result. It's kind of like seeing the very first Model A car. It's very different from looking at an advanced sports car right now. It was the very first automobile. And now you see, obviously, they have shocks. They have, all kinds of things on them that they couldn't imagine back then. And roads have changed. Everything's changed, right? So online education is going to become much more human over time. And it's already proven to be better for student scores. And a lot of people these days, let's face it, don't want to send their sons to school because of these crazy courts they have online where a boy can be accused of something with no evidence at all and can be basically kicked out of Harvard or whatever he's been working on, and it can totally ruin his career and life, his social life, basically get a scarlet letter for the rest of his life. That's what's happening to boys right now in schools. They've become very, 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 very bad for male students and dangerous. Not for every student. I'm not saying that there's kids that are having a great time in school. That's absolutely going to be the case. Guys are going to be in fraternities, laughing it up, having fun. But even those guys know that things have changed. Everybody knows things have changed. And with all of the takeover, the left-wing takeover of education, and essentially the politically correct movement, it's a dangerous world out there for boys in school. And boys are being pushed aside. Boys are testing poorly in school. Boys are dropping out of school. Suicide rates among adolescents are very high. Boys are getting the great book, The War on Boys. It's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. And guess what's going to happen? Boys are going to choose online education. And I'm telling you right now, guys, look into it. Even if you have bias against it in the beginning, don't worry about it. Just check into it. Online education is better than offline education. It is. Students test better. There's better methods there's more variety. You get more time with the teacher, believe it or not, because the teacher can take each student. The teacher doesn't have to spend all his time commuting, and the students don't have to spend all their time commuting. They can just, all the time is just directly online. Boom, with the students. And the teacher can look at the scores and can also have direct one-on-one video conferencing with the students easier. And there's more student-teacher interaction with online education there is with offline. With offline, you know how it is. The teacher comes, you're sitting there, teacher comes, makes his lecture, leaves. Maybe you ask him one question when he's leaving, and then he goes into his office. How many times did you go to your teacher's office? How many times? Really? How many teachers did you go to their office? I went to one to protest a class. It was a logic class. I told the teacher, I shouldn't take this, I'm too logical. She laughed and she said, maybe you are, but I'm going to give you anyway. Well, I scored the highest in our school's history in logic. And so she laughed afterwards. She said, you were right. You didn't need this class. And it was funny. Anyway, I went there for that. But, that could have been done anywhere. And it didn't even work anyway because I had to take the class anyway. But it was kind of nice because I ended up getting my score. And I realized I really am an anomaly on logic. And that was really interesting for me too, because I knew I was logical, but I didn't have the test score to prove it to myself, so I could accept, my emotional mind could accept it, and anyway, that was one time I went to meet a teacher. Another time I went when I missed a test, and another time I went when I made friends with the professor. But that's it. I never went to professors after school or into their offices. And I don't know about you, but there wasn't that much interaction with online education. It's the chat thing is open. Teachers chat with the students directly. There's actually more communication with the teacher and student than there ever has been with online. And the reason why I know so much about it is because John in Japan is getting a master's degree in online education now. So we've been talking about it for about 3 years now. And I was shocked. I didn't know this. It's something to really look into, whether as an investment, like you're looking into online education. People want to study. They want to study now. They don't want to wait. They want to take a certain class and they want to do it now. And they want the best teacher. That's the other thing about online education. You can have one teacher teaching a lot of students instead of some hack in your hometown teaching physics. Wouldn't you rather have a Richard Feynman type of teacher that really understands physics, like a true teacher, and also what do you call it? Like a savant, somebody who gets it, someone who really gets the topic. Okay, I don't like the word genius. Let's say savant. Someone who just like a Tesla, like a Tesla who really understood electricity. He understood it. He completely understood AC/DC. And if you watch the documentary of him and what's the guy? The DC. The other guy, Edison, Thomas Edison, right? That documentary is quite interesting. But anyway, he was one of these guys who just totally understood electricity from the get-go. Something like a Da Vinci type of guy. I would rather have that as a teacher than some hack who basically barely understands this topic. I remember asking questions in school, and I thought I was stupid because I didn't understand the teacher's explanation. Well, I taught school. Okay, I taught college when I was in my 20s in Japan, and I realize now as a post teacher, I used to teach, that a lot of times the teachers don't really understand a lot of topics. And it's not in the teacher's wheelhouse to say he doesn't really understand. Like if the teacher says he doesn't really get something, the students are going to go crazy, right? So the teachers pretend like they know everything, essentially, because they don't want to get fired, right? Teachers are pretty cheesy overall. I got out of it as soon as I realized what was going on. But it's pretty cheesy profession. But there is once in a while, there is a true savant, a person, that really gets the concept of something. And these are the type of people that I like to hang around. And these are the people I like to study. And this is why I like online education, because I can look for that guy. And it could be a woman too. It could be, there are people who just get things. They just comprehend a subject for whatever odd reason in their brain. They just totally, even if they never heard of something, you can tell them something new and they'll be like, oh, that probably does this. And you're like, oh yeah, it does. And how did you know that? And they understand the basics of the subject so well that it's like, it's easy for them to put the pieces together for something brand new that they don't even just heard about, That's the type of person I want to study from. It's not somebody who just studied enough just to put together a lecture. Fuck that. That's what you're getting today with teachers. A bunch of cheesebag scumbags trying to hold on to their fucking jobs. Losers, afraid. I'm serious. This is most teachers. And that's most people, actually. Fuck them all. No, I want a fucking savant. I want to be around savants. And that's what I want in my life. And I want to soak in that energy. And also there is an optimism to the savants. There is. They get things. It's like a different world. And if you surround yourself with these type of people, either online or offline, you will find yourself changing. And if you start to not hang out with people that are in the other camp, and that's another thing that you can learn from this whole being alone by yourself for a long time thing, is that you can say, when you go back out in the world, okay, just like I smelled the air, and when it gets bad again, I'm going to smell the air. When you smell the people that you're hanging around, okay, smell your job, smell the things, and see if maybe it smells a little different than it did before. Maybe when you had a break from it and you came back to it, you're going to be like, holy crap, I never realized this. But I really love this, or I really am tired. I don't want this anymore. I actually am thinking more of that, right? You're going to have some realizations so there's realizations that you have while you're being in confinement, right? Whatever you call it, isolation. And there's also realizations. Be ready when you go out in the world again. Be ready for realizations and take notes, because they're going to come fast and strong. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I never noticed this. Write it down. Don't lose it. Get yourself Simple Note. Get yourself Evernote app so it's on your phone so you have it at all times, and write down realizations from self-isolation. And I'll tell you something. Self-isolation is not some Johnny-come-lately bullshit that I'm talking about here. The monks back in the desert in I forgot what age it was, but I read a book. It really influenced me, actually. When I was in university, I read one book about monks that self-isolated in the desert. I'll see if I can find it and post it below. I don't know if it's worth reading that book or not, because I read it then and it meant something. I was 18, right? But anyway, I can find the book and maybe it was worthwhile. Anyway, the concept was very worthwhile, is that these guys went into the desert alone, and when they finally were kind of discovered or met again, or when they came back, they had lived these rich lives. They were not lonely or bored. They had studied, they had written, they had seen the world. They were not what you would think from isolation. They came out of it with it was almost like they didn't want. I think the outside society is almost like having a TV blaring in your room all the time, whereas when you turn off the TV and you feel the world on your own, I think that's when you start to find your own way. What I'm talking about is a path to go your own way. It's not to go my way. It's to go your own way. Now, what happens with people that are really, truly going their own way is often they share a lot of things in common. That's a little, what do you call that? When you give away the plot before the movie, Because being human is being human, And so you can share ideas. It's not like, I'm going my own way. It's so different than everybody else. I have smokestacks on my truck, and that's why it's so different than the guy who has the tailpipes below, or whatever. No, man. When you become truly yourself, truly human, truly in touch with yourself, you will find a connection to other people, to other living things. See, you will find a connection. I'm giving away the plot here, but there's a connection. There's an enjoyment. There's a need we have for other people. And this is one of the reasons why I really think it's dangerous for people to think of women as adversaries. Because 50% of the world is female. And whether any female has helped you in your life, let's say you had the worst luck in history. You had the worst, let's just say reality. You might have had an abusive mother. You might have had an abusive sister. You might have had girlfriends who were abusive. And these things are not coincidental. Because when you are grown up with an abusive parent, you tend to choose the patterns that you know. And so it's not like, oh my gosh, this guy. No, it's like these are very common to have both these things. Because you now are used to this type of thinking. It's become comfortable for you. Just like somebody who has a terrible comfort food, a really bad comfort food that their mom made terrible food. They're going to eat that terrible food later because that's what they grew up with, right? Whereas if you grew up with healthy comfort food, avocados, oranges, healthy things, then you're going to go to that. Whereas somebody grew up with shitty comfort food, it's going to go to shitty comfort food. So it's just that kind of like, that's your habit, right? But the world is full of living things. And those living things are connected. They're all awesome. Like, they're fucking great. Like, whether they're female humans, female animals, male animals. We don't separate male and female mosquitoes, right? We don't separate when we're walking around male and female birds. I mean, we do in the sense that we categorize them. And sometimes they have characteristics which are interesting that teach us about them, but they're not. It's not like, oh my God, those birds are bad. Those female mosquitoes, they're fucked. I only like the male mosquito. Well, actually, female mosquitoes are kind of fucked in a way. Female mosquitoes are the ones that bite you. But I mean, that's just a coincidence. Anyway, male animals, whatever they do, different species. But you get what I'm saying. I'm making fun of myself by saying that example. You get what I'm saying. Is that the world is a big, awesome place. And feel it. Enjoy it. See it. See other people. See them for what they are. And sometimes being in isolation is a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift where you will become more of yourself, and by finding yourself. And I want you guys, if you do this, if you take this seriously, this one, you will come out of this not only stronger, but much more you. You will come out of this. Most people, they won't even come out of this. The fake persona that they had, that they bolstered with money or whatever it was to prove to other people this and that, badge of honor, gold stars that they had to prove their fake image, they're just going to double down on that. More of that. But that is painful, time-consuming, energy-consuming waste of a life, man. It's a waste of a life. Like, really, that is the definition of a waste of a life. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not kidding around. Like, not living life, not being there is a waste of a life. Just by definition, think about it. It's so true. It's amazing. So don't do that. And we all do it. Okay, don't get me wrong. But there are things that you will peel away. I like that saying, as the layers of the onion. You keep peeling the onions away. So it's not like you're good and you're bad and you're going to become good. It's like you're peeling the onion away and you're looking down deeper into yourself and into the world. And when you do that, what happens? Here's the reason. You come out of it, in a sense, unbeatable. Because nobody can beat the real you. See, the real you has amazing reservoirs of power. The real you. The real you is the real you. It's the survival you. It's the deep. And it's not something you find. Okay, the real you is something you actually build. You find and you build it. It's a combination. But that you wanted to build, and that and essentially the skills, like, for example, you slowly build yourself flexible with yoga, you slowly build yourself strong, you slowly build your ability to do mathematics. These become part of you and you become fluent in them, like riding a bicycle or a skateboard. So they become you. So these are also you. You don't just find yourself as a good yoga master. You have to work very, very hard to become good at something. But that is you. You start that journey because that is you, and and you go on that journey, and then you become more you. In other words, a deeper you, right? So it's not like women are like, oh, let's just find ourselves. You don't find yourself, man. If you find yourself, look at people who have not improved themselves. That's what they're going to find. It's a combination, as things always are. It's the sensing. It's the feeling. It's the growing. It's the fear. It's the competition. It's the fear of death. It's the desire to make the most. It's the overwhelming exuberance of life and enjoyment and wanting more of that. It's all connected. It's all connected. And when you have that, you cannot be beaten. Life will be tough. But when you compare that to somebody living a fake life with a fake persona, there is no comparison. It's like you're a car. You've taken out the back seats. You've taken out the air conditioning. You've taken out all the heavy things. You have stripped the car down. You have a very fucking efficient car that is fast, safe, corners better. You've got an efficient vehicle for navigating this world because you've taken the crap off. Most people, they just put more crap in the car. They're like, I got so much crap in this car. I'm just going to put, like they'll say, well, you got all those, water gallons in your trunk. He's like, well, it doesn't even matter. I got so much shit in this car, like, fuck. That's what people's life is like, and you want to go I want to go the opposite way, where I don't give up on life. Well, what's the fucking difference? Put a fucking, put a bed on top of the car, put some bricks in there, like, who cares, like it's all crap anyway, basically is what they're saying, right? No way, man. No fucking way. That is poison, baby. That is poison. They should be, a laser from space should take them out. Be gone, like in fucking some kind of movie, Wizard of Oz, I don't know, get out of here, man. Get out of here, and journey. The hero's journey, man. The hero's journey. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. I know I did.